This is my year-long study by Allison Kachaber. The purpose of my study was to find the data behind English papers during the school year, and if having someone else write it was an option, how much they would give someone, whether like in payment or anything. I specifically went with payment, but some students are known to do like, oh, I'll do this homework if you do that homework sort of thing. But the purpose was also to gather data behind how much the teacher made them peer review papers and possibly find the reason behind why the students didn't want to write their papers. Many students had at least one complaint about an issue they had with writing their paper, along with personal preferences with the medium they would write their paper on, such as like Google Docs or Microsoft Word, things like that. The way I collected my data was by clustering different grade levels together. In order to get the data from the students to cluster together, I gave them specific questions to answer to get the kind of answers that I wanted. The 6 questions I asked were, how many papers do you write during the school year? How many times do you peer review during the school year? How much would you charge someone to write your paper for you? What is your biggest issue writing an English paper? What medium do you use to write your paper? And would you rather write your paper by hand or type them? I asked these questions to get a feel for what the students were thinking and what they were doing. By asking how many times they peer reviewed and how many papers they wrote, it gave me an idea about the workload the students had. How much they charged someone to write their paper gave me an idea about how willing they would be to get it done and just how determined they were. The biggest issue for writing an English paper gave me an idea about why they might not have been writing their paper, whether it be like if they couldn't write a thesis, you can't write a paper without a thesis, so they just decided not to write the paper altogether. What medium do you use writing your paper is a question that I wanted to know to see if personal preference had anything to do with how the teacher taught, such as if a student liked Google Docs, but the teacher made them use Microsoft Word, so they just decided not to write it. And would you rather write your paper by hand or by typing it? Is just a question that maybe if students would rather type their paper, but the teacher makes them write it, or vice versa, they just decide not to write it at all. Here are some bar graphs from the data I collected for the freshmen. These box plots were giving us an idea about the categorical data that we found from the responses they gave us. It gave us the numbers we can use later on in this study. Here are the sophomore bar graphs. This shows us the same things, just different numbers because it's a different grade level. And as stated, these box plots were for the sophomores, and it gave us an understanding of what they responded in a number format. Here are the junior bar graphs. The bar graphs shown are the visual representations of the data, so that we're not only getting the numerical value of it, but we're also seeing the drastic difference between them. Here are the senior bar graphs. The bar graphs shown give us the data collected by the senior class on specific questions asked. The categorical questions have data that is interpreted differently than the quantitative ones, so the charts are different, and that's shown in the visuals we see. Here are the freshman histograms, and the histograms show us the frequency that the answers occurred in. The specific data before is for the freshman data. Here's the sophomore histograms. And as stated, the histogram shows us the frequency in which the data occurs. So for the junior histograms, we're seeing a very different frequency in the way that answers have been given. And same with the seniors. There's a drastic change in the numbers showing that different grade levels have different opinions, and we can see that in these visuals here. The freshman block plots are here with all of our numbers on the side for our quantitative questions. And the box plot, also known as a box and whisker diagram, is a standardized way of displaying the distribution of data based on a 5-number summary: the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum. And the box plot is shown is based around the freshman class. The 5-number summary is shown, as well as any outliers that may have been present. The outliers are described with X's, and the minimum, maximum, first quartile, third quartile, and median are all shown on the side. So for the sophomores, we can see the difference between the outliers with the freshman data, as well as the junior box plots in front of us. We can see that the outliers are very different depending on the grade level. So we have the senior box plots here. Again, different quartiles, different medians, different mins and maxes, different outliers, different data essentially. Here's our Unit 6 data. We have our questions along with our confidence intervals. Our Unit 7 categorical data just goes into a little bit deeper explanation as well as some more math. And here's the quantitative data, a little bit similar, but it's for the 3 other questions that weren't previously shown. And the Unit 8 categorical data gives us a different side of the math, just to really focus in on the data. And the Unit 8 quantitative data, again, similar but not exactly, just kind of giving us an overall feel for everything. So overall, the year-long study was about whether or not students at Joliet Central would want people to write their English papers for them, and the data reflects my hypothesis.